Welcome back to another HABS BRUNCH, your Sunday rendezvous. But this time, Mr. Marco, we are live streaming for the first time at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Hopefully, you have an amazing, great weekend, Mr. Marco. And I know you were sick a couple of weeks ago, but now I know you're recovering because, not because you recover, I need to ask you if you recover for your sickness, but because of your birthday, because happy birthday, belated, because it was Friday. Well, I heard like you just turned 34, so I just want to sharing with this with the people in the chat. So happy birthday, Mr. Marco.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, it was a nice day. I'll take 34 for sure. A little bit more than that, but yeah, it was a good time. Definitely a good time. I don't drink very much, so dinner and drinks. So as you get older, it takes a little bit longer to recover from those drinks, but it was a good time. So
everything you do when you get older is going to take a little longer to recover for sure about this one.
Oh yeah, so absolutely.
We understand that part of this. So listen, we have a great show today. We have a lot of talks about. Of course, Montreal Canadiens are now on the full season 22-23. So we have a lot of contents to talk about. We have people going to join us live streaming. If they have questions during the show, they need to put the letter Q. We're going to have a section of the show. We're going to answer all of your questions. The show is about 60 minutes, Marco, and then we're going to close the show for sure. We have a special guest today, by the way. We're going to talk to him the next couple of minutes. But before we start, Marco, we'd like to a little bit see what we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to review the week number 2 last week. Montreal's Canadiens surprised a little bit with a couple of W we was not expected. At some point, you are pretty good on your prediction of the weeks. And then HABS news around the team, what happening last week for update for the injuries, other news. Finally, at the end of the show, a little bit of debate about maybe starting to see what is next for the Hugo. A lot of bigger decisions coming very soon. And we know Montreal is going to be on the road after the game Tuesday. We're going to talk about the preview, weeks number 3, and some prediction maybe from you. And of course, and that will be really what we're going to talk about this. Anything you want to add for Mr. Marco?
No, it should be a great show, Coach. Very exciting week of hockey, and always fun to connect on Sundays and talk about the week. And really excited to do a live stream this week, and I hope everybody enjoys the show.
Definitely about this. Something we said before we leave, we want to invite people. Don't forget to click on the likes. Of course, subscribe, and of course, sharing this video. That'd be great, so we can definitely to get more people the next week for sure. We're going to do it one more time. So like we do at the beginning of the show, Mr. Marco, we always go for the warm-up introduction and then invite, see the guests we have. Are you ready to rock and roll?
Let's warm it up, Coach. I'm all warmed up. Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. But we have a special guest, Mr. Marco, this week. And Nick LARIVIERE back again for the second time inside of the HABS BRUNCH. Welcome, Mr. Nick, with us today.
Welcome, Nick.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We are very happy to having you. Of course, you bring a lot of knowledge about hockey for sure. I think, did you say earlier, because I was working a bit, I think I heard we talking with Marco. Did you go to the game last night?
Yes, I was there last night.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Yeah. Maybe not awesome because of the result, but...
Yeah, he was tweeting last night that I'm surprised that Nick has his voice this morning, actually.
But first of all, before we start, Mr. Nick, we want to welcome a couple of people. Claude Richard and Mr. Enartap are in the house right now. Welcome back. We have more people in the chat. They are not welcome back yet, but we're going to see them a little bit later, Mr. Nick and Marco. Let's start right away and talk about the reviewing about what happening from Montreal last week. It was honestly the week number 2. They have 3 games during that week. They start again at Pittsburgh Monday, if I can recall it. The record is 2-1-0, by the way, and they play Monday again the Pittsburgh, and they won by the W 3-2. If I recall, it was an overtime. And then they lost again. They won again Arizona 6-2, and finally They lost yesterday again by a score of 5-2. So a little bit reviewing a little bit the both 3 games from both of you. What do you pay the most attention during the 3 games for the Montreal Canadiens? So let's start it with Marco, if you don't mind. Marco.
Yeah, like again, very exciting week. Like you mentioned, Coach, I had one good prediction, I guess, from last week when we looked at it. I feel we always play well against Pittsburgh, so I just had a hunch. I think going back many years, we always have kind of Crosby's number. We're kind of Crosby's kryptonite. Like, so had a hunch that we might play well. Really, really solid game by the guys against Pittsburgh. Really good team effort on that one. Kind of shocked the hockey world a little bit. Nice comeback after being down 2-0 in the third period. So showed a lot of character. So that was really, really awesome. And obviously the most exciting game of the week was the Arizona game. So many things to unpack from that game. It was it was almost kind of like the most exciting Habs moment since the draft. That had that same kind of electricity. The draft, trading in the first round and all that. There's so many things happening, right? Jacket's first fight, you got Slav's first goal, the Suzuki penalty shot. Just so many things happening and so many takeaways from that game. But the underlying thing from that game, in my opinion, is I think it was a little bit misleading, the result of 6-2 if you look at the score, because they had Ingram in net and he hadn't played in over a year and some pretty shaky goaltending. But for the show itself, like as a fan, it was really exciting. But fans should kind of take that result with a grain of salt, because if you look at the underlying numbers of that game, it was a lot more even than it looks. But still a lot of fun, a lot of amazing stories coming out of that one. And last night, probably the toughest matchup of the season so far. You're facing a Dallas team that is undefeated essentially in regulation. Ottinger, probably the number one goalie in the league right now. So he's no Ingram compared to playing Arizona. So my takeaway from that game is still positive. There's still some positives. There's still some things to be worried about. I think Doc had a really poor game, but I think the thing that makes me feel better about that game, and I think I mentioned it last night when I popped in after the game, is I think we beat ourselves. I don't think it was really anything like Dallas had good pressure on us, but I felt most of the things that happened that caused the game to go sideways are very preventable things and very coachable things that Martin Saint-Louis will be able to work on. Overall, I still feel we're in the game. If it wasn't for those critical mistakes, taking terrible penalties when we had a power play, things like that. So that's kind of my takeaway for the week, guys. Great, probably overperformed from what we thought. Lots of things for us to discuss this week, and this sort of should almost be like an hour and a half show this week, because there's just so many fun stories to talk about and so many questions. But Nick, what did you think? Like you were at the game yesterday, but what was your thought for the whole week?
So for the whole week, like against Pittsburgh, I remember the game starting out slow. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a rough night. And then the third period came and everything just changed. I love the hustle. I love how this team does not give up. You had Suzuki and Caulfield score. They actually scored in three straight games, or Suzuki scored in 3 straight games after heading into last night's game, and he still continued his 4-game point streak last night, even with his lowly assist on the Jacky goal. I'll get into that a little bit later, but yeah, it was like a really great comeback. It was amazing. I was sick that night still, so I wanted to go to the game originally, but I was just not feeling well, so I stayed home. But it was still so much fun to watch.
Suzuki,
Arizona.
not bad for the ninth worst contract in the league.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah,
you see
yeah.
that that's
I
going around
still,
the internet quite a bit right now.
I still can't believe he was on that list. I understand that
Yeah,
maybe he hasn't put up, but at the same time, it was at a weird time when you look at it. Like he had already scored 60 points in a season. He's not. It's not like he's I mean, right now, like I'm not gonna take shots at Brendan Gallagher because he's been amazing, but like I would understand Brendan Gallagher more on that list. because at this point of his career, it's going to be a lot harder for the next 5 years. 6.5 million. That's, who knows how that's going to age. But Suzuki,
Yeah, for
he's
sure.
23 years old, 8 years, and he's going to grow into it. He's still improving. He's a point of
It's
game
good
player.
bulletin board.
It's
It's good bulletin board
it,
material for him, right?
yeah, exactly. It probably gives him more motivation, and that's why sometimes you can't say certain things. Uh, but yeah, the Arizona game though, that was definitely, like you said, the best moment since the draft. Seeing Slavkovsky's goal, that was amazing. I wasn't there, but like it was amazing just watching it at home. Like he picks up the puck after getting hammered by Josh Brown, and then just scores. And of course, he rubs it in his face. I understand he's an 18-year-old kid. It's kind of fun to watch. He's got to be careful about that though.
Yeah, in the
The wrong guy
preseason.
might just yeah
Yeah,
the wrong
yeah,
the wrong guy might just get him, and it happens. Actually, that dates back to 2011. If you don't, I don't know if you remember Pacioretty's situation. He scored an overtime goal and then kind of like face washed Chara. What happens next game? They play each
yeah,
other.
yeah.
It,
That's a good point.
I always dated that back. I'm like, it actually goes back to that. Like, if you think about it, and that's why you got to be careful.
At least Josh
Uh,
Brown is not Chera, but yeah,
yeah, no, but like you get the point. Like could be an issue, and it doesn't
yeah.
mean it'll be
It's
Josh Brown going after him. It could be Zach Cassian, a bigger guy that can throw
mhm.
his weight a bit better.
Yeah. First
But yeah,
NHL goal. A lot of
yeah,
excitement
he's
there,
excited.
Coach. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
for
have
sure.
that. I don't know if you have that image, Coach, but of that image where he's like staring at Josh Brown after the goal, and Jack Eye is like right behind him, about to do the F word. That's I wonder how many Habs fans have that as their wallpaper right now on their phone or something. Like it's just such a iconic image, like of both of them right after the goal. Slavkovsky's like just looking psycho. I didn't know he had that in him, like just that look of wow. I don't know, like I didn't know he had that kind of psychotic kind of vibe in him, but it was pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, definitely
And then,
about that one over there for sure. About this, yeah, about both of you are right about all three game for sure. I think yesterday that friendly was really the high danger scoring against for Montreal. There was 34 versus 24, I believe, and then there was 17-10, and that's why we really the difference between the others whatsoever. First period 1-1, the last period is only 1-0. It's only the problem. The momentum game changed at the first beginning of the second period when they gave a goal right away. And after Albert Jacky score, they got back at the end of the second period to score a goal, and that was the end of the Montreal at that moment. Goal number 4 completely cut the legs of Montreal whatsoever. They tried to come back, but you can see it was done deal over there for this game. And Marco,
Yeah,
you're right about Arizona. The chance was only 11-10. Like if you think about
yeah.
this, like the score don't show exactly. You have 4 shot, 3 goal at the beginning of the game, but the rest of the game it was pretty even. Like you
I
really nailed it when you said that about Arizona.
I have a different theory on that. Actually, I think because Montreal got ahead so much, they kind of let back a little bit, especially after the
In the
Suzuki
third period,
goal.
yeah,
Yeah, well, third period,
yeah,
but like just in general, like they maybe weren't pushing as much. They kind of felt that they had this game in the bag, and I just felt like I've seen it before. I've been to games a couple of years ago. I was at a game against Buffalo, and the Habs were like out shooting them by like 15 shots with like 5 minutes to go. I think Buffalo had 20 shots on Price in the last 5 minutes because they just didn't care. It was 5-0, and that's what happens sometimes.
yeah.
But
Martin
yeah,
St. Louis
like
even said that, right? Like after in his press conference, he warned the guys saying that playing with a 5 goal lead is one of the toughest things because the opposing team will take chances that they normally wouldn't take. They get out of their structure. They do weird things. So it's a very I think the word he uses you can't imprévisible. I don't know what the word is for in English,
uh,
but like just really hard
yeah,
to predict what they're going to do. So I think you're bang on, but I think the overall numbers of the game, I think, are closer than people thought for sure. But coach,
Yeah.
you nailed it. Like, there's a reason that cliche exists, right? Like, never allow a goal in the first or last minute of a game. There's a reason why that's a cliche because it's true. Like Nick, you were telling us before we came on air about what it was like at the Bell Center last night. Like maybe tell us about that because seeing it on TV is one thing, but being in the arena and feeling the impact of a late goal like that, maybe tell us about kind of what that did to the crowd.
Yeah, so I mean, we have the first goal in the second period. Like that kind of hurt, but like you could always bounce back from that. But the last goal in that period with like 15 seconds left, you could just sense the whole building just went quiet. The intermission wasn't even as like hyped up as the first intermission. Like everything just kind of seemed a little down, and even going to the third, there was little negativity. You can sense it
You're
around
absolutely right
the
about this.
building.
And from the TV, I'll be honest with you, all the six players on the ice make a mistake. From Whiteman
Yeah.
get completely destroyed by Ben. Albert tried to destroy Ben after
Yeah.
that. And then Dak left the guy for the hash marks coming in the middle. And then Drouin, he was not cover
Has
his
no
guy.
one.
And then Anderson you have to pick up one of the two guy. And then you have a rebound from Allen. And then Allen cannot stop the second rebound for Lender was going the 5-0. So you cannot point only one specific player. You want all the six players on the ice make at some point a mistake before the goal get in the net. So it was really strange when you see that, honestly, but it's happened, of course,
Yeah.
during the
I was
season.
just hoping that Hoffman would be on the ice so I could blame it on him, but he wasn't on there, so it's
Yeah,
too bad.
exactly.
No,
We
honestly,
always want
Mike
to.
Hoffman played very well for
He
all
did.
three games. Mike Hoffman played well with Jake Evans as the four line.
Well, yeah,
Definitely the last game was the best one for sure. Sorry, go ahead,
But
Nick.
my point is like he
I was,
played better his last three games versus the weeks before that or the
Oh
beginning of
yeah.
the
Yeah.
season. He looked better on the four line for sure. For that whatsoever, he had
I,
made some mistake about this. But let's move on for everything what happening. Before we get the next thing, I would like to know for you guys maybe from the weeks for the three game who stand out the most. And first of all, we want to welcome back some people: King of Gamer, Rudolph, and Miss Kelly. All three. Thanks to be a part of the show tonight. Very nice
Thanks,
to see
guys.
you
Welcome.
around for sure. And we're going to answer your question, guys. It consists to ask a question, go to answer to your question a little bit later during the show. Almost like I have 20 minutes before the end of the show. And put the letter Q. That'd be great if you don't mind. So who stand out the most during the weeks? One or two players whatsoever. And it could be on the impressive or it could be on the disappointed. Up to you. So Marco, let's start in with you.
Listen, like it's there's a lot of good performances, but I don't think anybody will be surprised that I would point out Jacky. I think was the most outstanding player of this week for a lot of different reasons. Just really emerging. Somebody was joking around, but it's maybe not far off that the NHL right now is promoting Jacky almost as much as McDavid, right? Like he's just emerging, not just in the Montreal market, but he's getting a lot of coverage. Like I watch a lot of games from on different feeds, like US channels and stuff like that, and he's getting a lot of coverage in other markets. So to me, he's kind of the story of the week with the fight, just the whole kind of vibe that he brings to the game, like the mojo that comes with the whole moment with Slavkovsky. So to me, that's the moment that stands out is that moment with Slavkovsky after his first goal, and then following it up with a really great performance yesterday. I think like we've been talking about him since the summer, since the camp, and but to me, he's just improving more and more, and so that's kind of my standout from a positive perspective. From a negative perspective, we had that really nice pass from Drouin at the end, I believe, of that Pittsburgh game, which is really exciting. He played a decent game the last game, but then last night he was along with Doc. Like that whole line was kind of invisible. I felt last night, so disappointing from Drouin. Just when you think he's maybe going to emerge and start giving us some good hockey, kind of disappointing. So that's kind of what stood out to me this week, I guess, positive and negative. Nick?
Yeah, so I'll go with a different player. Like I thought Slavkovsky, he played amazing in both games this week that he was in. It sucks he couldn't play last night, but yeah, like he was out there getting chances. He looks to have a lot of chemistry with Jake Evans, which is another thing about Jake Evans. Like Jake Evans is so underrated. You never expect, like he always lives up to your expectations no matter what. Like he never I've never been disappointed by Jake Evans. That's a player that he's
Yeah.
on the fourth line. He might not be the most flashy. Well, he can be sometimes, but he always does something right out there. But he'll never be the
Hard to
best, and
argue
that's
with that.
fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that line really impressed me. I mean, there were times where I thought Hoffman could have been better. Like he had a better week than he did last week for sure. But like he's obviously the. I always feel like he's the third man on that line. Scored last night. He probably had his best game last night for sure. But yeah, no, it's still kind of disappointing watching Hoffman. Like just sometimes he just annoys me. Like with all the mistakes he makes, the turnovers, and it's the same. Like you said, Drouin. Hoffman is pretty much the same player, except Drouin probably has more skill.
Yep. For me, because you talk about, I have to go with Jake Allen. And not only stand out, but I know he gave five goal yesterday. But I will say to you, the reason why he played very well against Arizona at the beginning of the season overall, I think he did very well. And then the goaltender Montreal Canadiens with Montembeault Monday, I think they did very good. It's not
Yeah.
like it's funny because at the beginning of the season we said they're going to give a lot of goal. There was first time this year they gave 2 goals on the PK yesterday, and the first time they gave over 3 goals per game yesterday. But overall, since the beginning of the season, I would say to you, the goaltending it did pretty good overall. And of course, I would say to you that on the disappointment, every game had one specific player, but yesterday was really Kubidak. It was not there allowed. Kovacevic have a very not a good game against
Yeah.
Arizona Thursday. Have a good game yesterday. It was maybe one of the best with Albert. Of course, Marco, you have to right about Albert. And overall, I think Caden Clay have a great game Monday night against Pittsburgh. So I split on three three games, but that's really what happening during the weeks for me for the send out for sure about this. And then Rudolph talk about Jake Evans about this. The 4 line, sometimes you have always a player make other player better. And I'm not saying, Crosby can put Kones, Pascal Dupuis, he make them better. I don't say Jake Evans make the other scoring more goals, but he gave more opportunities, and that's what Jake Evans bring a lot on the table with the 4 line. And then this week is a average face-out. It was 51%. And then the second thing about this, there was the +4 again, goal again versus goal 4. One the percentage chance high danger score again. So I think he did pretty good that line for Jake Evans this week. Whatever it was, Slavkovsky or Mike Hoffman beside him. So
Yeah.
I just want to sharing this with you. And let's talk a bit more about the app news during the weeks. And first of all, during the week, Jake Allen was out Monday with the birthday of a newborn, honestly. And then Kaden Primo was called up. They had a Shonevin was down, back up, and then go down, back up because the situation. Kaden Primo was returned to Laval. And then the blood clinic at the Bell Center was 700 people participate at that day. Really unique. It was great to see Carey Price during that day. I don't know if you guys follow a little bit couple of news, a couple of things about this, or you follow that date, October 19. If anybody, both of you, have some comments about that day.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, it was really good to see Carey Price. Like he looks happy. He looks like he wants to be involved in the city of Montreal. I don't know if any of you saw yesterday, but him and his family were at the Alouettes game. Like that just shows he still wants to be part of the community of Montreal, and really that's the best takeaway you can take about this week regarding the blood clinic and Carey Price in that aspect.
Yeah. So shout out to Karine, who usually is on our show. She had she was at the blood clinic, and she must have been in heaven. Like, she got some great pictures with some of the players. She got a picture with Caulfield. She got a picture with Gallagher. She got like a whole bunch of signatures. So good for Kagan. The one funny thing from this week is Martin St. Louis' press conference after Jake Allen had his baby. The whole comment about now they'll have to move to or they can move to a man on man defense instead of a zone defense now that they have 3 kids. I thought that was pretty funny. Martin St. Louis is just so awesome in his press conferences, man. He's always got a couple of good nuggets.
Yeah, absolutely right about this. So it was just what happening during the news around Montreal Canadiens, or the effect, the first goal of the season. We're going to talk about this a bit later. But the other thing we want to talk about is maybe some HABS injury update. We know now Joel Armia and Joel Edmondson are really close to coming back out the lineup, and the Montreal Canadiens, they're skating right now. This week they was alone. Now they're part of the training with the Montreal Canadiens. And then, obviously, we lost Juraj Slavkovsky with not much news. At least someone maybe can bring update this morning. I did not follow up too much. So, did you have something?
I heard something this morning, Coach. Like, so in in Jack Guy's press conference last night after the game, he let it slip that he might be dealing with a bit of a wrist injury. So, but nothing too serious is kind of what he was saying. So, that's actually good because. There was some discussion last night. There was some reports that he wasn't in the press box during the game when the other injured players were. So there was some rumor going around that maybe it was a concussion from that Josh Brown hit since he wasn't in the building. Maybe like he was having headaches or something like that. So I'd take the wrist injury, a minor wrist injury, over a concussion any day. So it looks like it's good news. With respect to Edmondson and Armia, I think they're really close, and I think that segues nicely into our next discussion here, which is going to be there's going to be some really tough decisions that are coming down the line here, with very few players that you can say are easy outs, right? Because everybody's kind of done something and brings something to the table, so it should be a fun debate here with these injuries coming back. Obviously, Edmondson is going to be a huge add to the team. If last year after his injury, it didn't take him very long to adapt and to kind of fit right back in. So I think it's going to be pretty great to. I think we all love how Gouli has been playing, but to be able to kind of calibrate his minutes a little more will be helpful, right? So should be good. Should be interesting to see. And Armia is going to be good for the PK as well.
All right, so that's give us, you guys, all the update we have for about the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to follow up more if we have any updates during the next couple of days with the app daily news we bring to you. Mr. Peter August, welcome aboard. Thank you so much. Don't forget, if you have any question, just don't hesitate with you. I'm laughing because behind the camera where I am right now is outside, and we have a storm, so it's like lightning, storming, thunder, everything like that. So it's funny to see how it looks like I have a beautiful background with lightning behind me. So it's funny to see that. Yeah, it's happening sometime. But let's move on, guys. We have a couple of things to talk about. We have still 30 minutes to go, and then we have a couple of questions for the people. They asked it up about this one over there. So, first of all, let's talk about the prospect Montreal Canadiens before we talk about the biggest contest we want to talk today. Our prospect, guys, pretty amazing. The weeks we got a couple of people, a couple of players have a great week. So I'm going to bring this graphic, guys. Then we're going to comment about this. Owen Beck, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points in 2 games on the weekend. Philippe Mazar, first weekend, and OHL have 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, 2 and 2 games. Lane Hudson yesterday won 2 points, 1 goal, 1 assist for Lane Hudson for the Boston College. Logan Mailloux scored his first goal since he returned and played in the OHL. Then goaltender have an amazing, great start, guys. Jacob Dorbez for the Ohio State and NCAA. 611, 1.80, save percentage of .391. The 6'5" is doing very well with the NCAA. We know he's playing right now his 3rd season, and that college at Ohio State, one of the best team for the upcoming year in NCAA college. But that's happening. Just maybe give anything you want to talk about this, starting with Marco, about the ad prospect.
Yeah, I think Brian Wild had a great tweet about this yesterday. In the past, when looking at prospects, you'd have to go dig pretty deep to go to try to find like a positive story about what happened. Like, okay, so there's one guy got like an assist on an empty net goal or something like that, but this year it's just wow, it's just so many prospects to follow and so many great things happening all at once. Last night it was almost as fun watching my Twitter feed, watching some of the Machar highlights and the Beck highlights as I was watching the game. It's really exciting time for being a Habs fan and all those quality prospects in the pipeline. A lot of people, again, it brings up this debate again when you have somebody like Beck or Machar, and Coach, we debated about this a lot as to where Machar should go, because Habs had that flexibility of either putting him in the AHL or the OHL. So it cues up that debate of is there value to send someone back to the OHL if it's clear that they're just dominating so much in that league? Like you look at Roy, in the Q as well, and you look at some of the goals he's scoring, and you're like, it's like he's on easy mode on a video game almost. Like it's just too easy. But my point of view on that is, look at Suzuki, right? He went down, he dominated at the OHL level, won an OHL championship, went all the way to the Memorial Cup, and Gouli, another great example. So I get it. It seems like it's too easy, but the confidence that they'll get, the experience they'll get playing in those situations, I think is still valuable. But there's an interesting debate that some people have brought up that similar to how Ontario has the exception rule for exceptional players that are able to play in the OHL at a younger age, maybe it's time to start thinking about an exceptional status for some players that can play in the AHL. Obviously, the Canadian Hockey League is going to really fight against that, because the reason that those provisions are there is it's a protection for them to maintain some of those assets in those leagues, right? Whole other conversation, but all that to say, very exciting to watch those prospects for sure.
All right. Nick, you want to add something about the prospect, or we can move on?
Yeah, well, yeah, like, so the one thing I feel is that just seeing the stuff that Machar has done this weekend, like, it makes me feel like maybe the Habs, because they did have the option to send him, to keep him in the AHL, maybe he would have done a good job in the AHL too. This year, though, it does give him a chance to completely dominate. And he's going to dominate the OHL. He might even be better than Beck. I don't know. But Beck might be the new Wyatt Johnson from last year. Just completely dominating the OHL. He came in to camp this year looking like he could make the team somehow. And Beck is just continuing. And it's kind of like Joshua Roy last year. Although now Joshua Roy has to play in the Q this year, which I feel like when you said the exceptional rule, I don't know if, like, for guys like Beck and Machar, Machar, he does have that option, but like a guy like Roy who completely destroyed the Q last year, what more is there for him? I understand that, like, yeah, it's better to keep them there another year of domination, but like, he dominated last year. What more is there for Roy in the Q? There's nothing left for him there. It's just basically just going to be a year of just continuing again what he did last year. There might not be as much improvement as it would be if he was in the AHL. It's time for him to be in the AHL. I would agree.
It's interesting conversation for sure. There's no simple answers. Like I said, the Canadian Hockey League is going to fight tooth and nail against any changes to that, because they need to sell tickets too, and they want those marquee players in their league. But NHL teams that are concerned about development, there's people that are going to debate it either way. But that's why it's an exception. It's not like every good player would go back. Maybe you set up some kind of criteria that is kind of really hard to achieve. Hey, did you score 40% more points than anybody in your league last year? Well, maybe it's time, for you to move to a different league. I don't know. Interesting conversation for another time, though, for sure.
All right, we'll come back. Mr. Rick Bungle from the Halifax is going to see the game tonight. Alexis Dubois will come back. And And then thank you so much. Chicago Bear is in the house today. So all of you guys, thanks so much. Don't forget to click on the like. That'd be awesome. The first thing we're going to talk about, guys, is the Hugo next move at defense straight forward. So going to talk about before we get all the questions finishing the show, guys. The reason I'm talking about this because the Montreal Canadiens, the next couple of days, they're going to bring back, example, the defenseman or a forward. And the question we want to talk today is, guys, to see what do you think, what they should do as let's start with the forward example. So who could be out for the Montreal Canadiens? One, Joel Armia back in the lineup. They have an extra forward. So we have Michael Becerra in the picture, Vit Pitlick, Juraj Slavkovsky, and Mike Hoffman. And you can talk about any other players you believe or what you think the Montreal Canadiens have to do for that situation to want my Joel Armia is coming back. Of course, if we don't have any injuries, that would be fine. That would be a decision that Montreal have to take. So I just want to share with you this, and you can go with Marco if you want to.
Sure. Yeah. Like, when Gallagher went down yesterday, that was kind of the first thought that crossed my mind. Like, oh, this might be able to give Hugo a bit of a free pass in terms of making that tough decision. But, Gallagher being the warrior he is, he came back. And so we'll see. Like, you never know what's going to happen, how long Slavkovsky will be out with that wrist injury. But assuming that everyone is healthy, for me, Coach, we've had this debate now a couple weeks, but I don't think you can sneak Pezzetta or Pitlick through waivers. I don't think it's going to happen. I think somebody will scoop up those guys for sure. And I still think that they have
who going to draft a claim Ren Pitlick?
Lots of teams.
At $1 million next year, at $1.8 million.
Yeah.
How many points he got? How many points Ren Pitlick has in the last 25 games he played under Martin Saint-Louis? How many points?
I don't think teams will look at that. I don't think teams are going to look at production specifically in the last 25
How many Ren
games.
Pitlick you have in the NHL?
I would categorize him as a type
you have a lot in the NHL.
I don't think so. Like, I don't think there's, again, there are many, but I don't think that, like, I think the value that Pitlick brings is a kind of Swiss Army knife kind of guy, right? Like, he can kill penalties, he can play on your bottom nine on the fourth line. But like we saw in the early part of the year, again, and how he's performed under St. Louis, like, he was Martin St. Louis, one of his favorite players when he first came on as coach last year. He was playing him tons of minutes. Now, again, there was lots of injuries, but there was other options for him to choose as well. And if you go back to the summer, you can tell that the whole organization really values Pitlick. Remember, I told the story, I think it was on a podcast, that even before St. Louis and Hughes were hired, because they were in discussions with Jeff Gordon about maybe working in Montreal. And even before they were hired, when Pitlick went on waivers, they called Gordon and said, by the way, I know we're not actually a part of the team yet, but pick that guy up. He's a good player. So both St. Louis and Hughes gave Gordon the advice to pick him up on waivers even before they were part of the team.
But now he's a three-team at 24 years old. He got rejected three times.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're talking about how he's valued by the current management team. The current management team very much values him. They very much value Pezzetta. And to me, Hoffman, and you can put Dwayne in that category as well, they're assets. They're assets that they're trying to maximize the value for, which is perfectly fine. But I guess the real question is, are they going to prioritize an asset that they feel that they can get something more from later? Or are they going to preserve a part of their team, somebody that they feel can be a valuable part of their team?
I mean,
that's the question.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, they obviously Pitlick will be valued in their opinion more than a Delaine, and that's why I think Delaine could be traded soon enough. Like, they're just waiting. I think he's the easiest one that you mentioned that could be traded. Hoffman, it's going to be very hard to trade him. He's got an extra year on his contract. I've looked at it, and I thought that the best trade possible for Hoffman is a Tyson Barrie swap. But I've said that before. I'm sure you've read my article on that. He's literally the best option regarding like a trade for Hoffman. They're other than Tyson Barrie, I don't know who else.
I just don't. I don't see them being able to trade Hoffman at this point. So, Coach. So the whole point of this segment was, if are we trying to guess what they'll do, or what would we do if I was the GM?
Yeah.
If I was the GM, I would waive Hoffman, because I don't think he's going to be tradable. There is precedent for that in the league. There is precedent with that even with Montreal. Byron was on waiver as well, like 3 times last year.
So now you cannot bring Armia in the lineup if you do Hoffman down. You have no money.
No.
Why?
Wait.
You have no money.
Why? But like either way, like when you could how would you not be able to do it anyway? So let's say you send Slafkovsky, you'd still have the same amount of money. Either way.
Yeah, I don't understand, Coach.
The point is, what are you trying to say with this? Like, there's some money. You save $900K by sending him down to the minors too, by the way.
Yeah, and like just look at last year. I think it was who did Laval play in the final last year? I forget what the name of the team is, but they had James Neal playing in the AHL against the Rocket last year, right? So
I think it's Thunderbird, Springfield.
Yeah. So
Springfield Thunderbird.
Springfield. Yeah. So listen, like it happens, man. Like teams send like James Neal. He's had arguably a much better career than Hoffman. He's got a Stanley Cup, doesn't he? So listen, like it happens. It's part of the business. Biron was sent down several times. Maybe in the short term, you don't actually have to make him report to Laval, because again, there could be an injury and whatever. But to me, it's just part of the business. Like who's like. It really depends what is the priority. And I think that going into this year, I think they probably did prioritize trying to put Hoffman in a good position to try to get the most value out of him. But there's been some reports that there's literally zero interest anywhere in the league for Hoffman right now. None.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's something that's
not about the interest, it's about the money. You're going to lose $3.5 million on your salary cap for dead money for 2 years. He's not going to return with Montreal, so he's going to be home. He's not going to report.
Why would he not return to Montreal?
You could always bring him back up.
Because now you're dead of players. When he's coming back, he will go to go on the locker room. Hey, you just waved me down. Do you think I'm going to go give my best here? Is a red flag right there.
He's not giving his best now. If he's a professional, then that's part of the game. That's just part of the game.
And
if you want to dead a guy, that's what you do. You never do a veteran 30 years old more to bring him in the American Hockey League when you have other option in front of you. Because now you're just completely losing him completely. And the business hockey, you don't do that.
Coach.
And hockey, you don't do
that. Coach,
and what do you do with the money? With salary cap, how are you going to do now, Montreal?
Well, doesn't change anything.
But yes, it changes anything. They're losing $3.5 million out of your salary cap. Now, when Armia's coming, what do you do? And what do you do after that for the trade deadline when you can try to get another asset and return to get a great pick and return because you open up money? Now you're stuck with Hoffman, the money salary cap for an extra.
Of course, if you can trade Hoffman, that's obviously the first option. You just say you don't trade
Hoffman. You cannot trade him.
I'm saying nobody wants him. Of course, I would trade him if I could. I'm sure they would if they can, but nobody wants him right now. So the alternative is, what do you do with him now? Like, he's going to occupy that money on your cap, regardless whether he's in your lineup or in Laval. But if you send him to Laval, at least you're getting a bit of savings off his number, because you get, I forget what the exact number is, but it's like probably close to $1 million. Yeah.
Close to
so you get a little bit of a savings. So you get a little bit of a savings sending him down to Laval. You're creating room for a player that is actually bringing value to your lineup, like a Pitlick, who can play a very specific role. He can kill penalties. He can do things like that. Hoffman's role is to score goals on the power play. That's his only thing that he can do. I've joked around about it before. The guy does not know how to play hockey. He is a goal scorer. If there was a sport called shoot the puck past the goalie on the right circle during the power play, he would be an all-star at that very specific sport. But he does not know how to play hockey. He'd be a gold medalist in that sport. But Pizzetta brings something to the game. Pizzetta, He brings physicality, he brings energy, he brings awesome energy in the locker room. There's many reports that many teams were waiting for Montreal to put him on waivers last year. Philadelphia Flyers being the one that I remember the most close. Like, can't you see Pizzetta playing for the Flyers? Like, he looks like Gritty. He's pretty much the same guy.
Marko, do you build your future with Michael Pizzetta for the future in NHL? Do you believe Pizzetta is going to be your next 5 years and your organization?
I don't care, but that's not the question. That's not the question. Like, I don't care if he's here for 5 years.
But you don't want to give him up. You don't want to get him down in Laval. You want to protect him. What Michael Pizzetta bring to this organization? Do you prefer to have Henri Pinard? Do you prefer to have Ezid Idonen? Do you prefer to have Eamon Eneman? Or do you want to have Michael Pizzetta and you line up because you want to protect who?
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Yeah, like, obviously those guys are going to be bigger guys. And I'm one of these people that say that Joel Armia is actually preventing Ylönen from being in the NHL. Obviously, he's better than Hoffman. And yeah, you're gonna put him in the lineup over Hoffman. I hope. I would. But the point is, like, even Armia, when he comes back, he could be used as like being played to be a trade piece in the future too, because like his contract's not great. Plus, Ylönen's pretty much waiting in the limelight to come up.
Ylönen hasn't had a good. He hasn't had a good. Like, he wasn't very good in camp, and like, I think we all have some belief in him, but he didn't have. He's not having a good really year so far. Yeah. But coach, listen, like, it's a very interesting debate. At the end of the day, I think Pizzetta, of course, he's not like part of our core or anything. Nobody's saying that. But listen, it is. I'm seeing some language in the chat. Like, of course, like when they say it's a business, and of course there's a human element to it. There is a humane way to do it. I'm sure they'll do it in a way that is very professional. If they had to send down somebody like Hoffman, but let's not kid ourselves. Like, if there's a hockey decision to be made, it is a business. Like, that's what this is about, and they're going to, if they think. So here's really what it comes down to. If they think keeping Hoffman in the lineup will somehow increase his value and they still believe that to be the case, then you're probably right. They're probably not going to do that. But the question is, what are they going to trade off in return? So it's Pizzetta, Pitlick, or Slafkovsky. Like last week on Habs Brunch, you and Karine were pretty convinced that Slafkovsky was going to be in Laval. I've been on the opposite end of that one. I don't think he's going to Laval anytime soon. Could he go there at some point this year? Maybe. I still think that the right path for him is to be in Montreal. So I'm glad we didn't talk about that this much this week, Coach, that Slafkovsky going to Laval.
He's going to be Laval. I'll be honest with you. Before Thanksgiving, he's going to be Laval. Shane Wright is going to be in OHL. Nobody will be draft 2022. Will be staying in the NHL this year.
All right, that's a bold prediction. We shall see.
But I do think that Slafkovsky's going to end up playing more than 9 games. I do think maybe he'll get a stint, and I think he'll be splitting kind of half and half this year.
I don't know about that, guys. I don't even know about half and half.
Okay, we'll see. But like I'm saying, he could definitely use some domination down there in Laval. Although right now, you want to keep him in Montreal because he's improving every single game. When he's improving every single game, you got to keep him in Montreal. You cannot send him down right now. This would be the worst time to send him down. He's just scored, but it wasn't just, even if he didn't score, he's been playing better every single game, raising his game.
You got to give him that opportunity to go dominate with, got to give him that opportunity to go down there and dominate with Belzile and all those great players.
Yeah, maybe okay. No, but like him and Ylönen, like that's a good guy.
He hasn't been having a good year at all.
Yeah, he'll figure it out. He'll definitely figure it out. I have faith in Ylönen. He might just not be. Sometimes players lose confidence when they feel like they should have made the team, and I've been vocal about thinking that he should have made the team at one point. Yeah. And Ylönen. It's time for him to step it up, and if he comes up to the NHL, it would give him a lot of confidence. That's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Good for him.
All right, Coach, I know we probably have lots of questions in the chat here, so sorry to keep going on and on.
Good for him, for Heinemann. Well, bad news for Heinemann to get hurt, but the good news for him, now he can play 60 days with Laval Rockets. So it'll be interesting how he's going to do, what they're going to do before he returns to Sweden, whatever it is. So it'll be something. We have a few questions in the chat, guys, and you can check on the board here so you can answer those. And how do you properly measure the improvement of the HABS this year? Is it because they are so much better, or is it because other teams take them lightly?
So I want to feel like, I don't know, with the Leafs, it always seems like they take them lightly. I think the Leafs are usually a better team, and then they seem to always underachieve against bad teams. I saw a clip yesterday, Steve Dangle saying that in the calendar year of 2022, the Leafs are 1-8-1 against teams like the Sabres, Habs, and Coyotes. It's insane. Like, it's like the Leafs, they just take teams lightly that are weaker than them. And that's the issue. And you kind of saw that in the first game of the season. The Leafs did not come to play at all. And they beat themselves. And, the Habs shouldn't have won that game, but they did because they worked hard. And so a team like that, then you look at teams like Pittsburgh, like Marco said, like, they always come out great against Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh played fine. It's just, but yeah, to measure the improvements, you just want to see like more impact from the kids and like just more improvement in their game. Like, even Nick Suzuki, like, we haven't talked much about him, but like, he's the best player on the team now. Like, you can't even deny that. He's so dynamic now, and you know what? He might actually become a point-a-game player for an entire season with the way he's been playing.
So one thing with Suzuki, I think Coach and I have discussed this a bit more in the recent weeks, is so his increased point production is awesome, but it's also coming at the expense of his overall game. If you look at his overall metrics on the ice, like, I feel it's okay. And listen, like, I'm okay with it, right? Like, based on where we are, nobody really has any expectations. But again, like, if this is really about building a culture and, improving, the overall kind of performance of the team, I think it's fine. At the beginning of the season, things are a bit loosey-goosey. Nobody's really, like, let's not forget, guys, like, the first 10, 15 games of the season, people are like, this is not even the real season yet, right? Like, players, teams are just gelling, so I think Martin Saint-Louis puts it really well, right? Like, we'll see where the team is at when we get to a stage of normalcy. Right now, everybody's still kind of running on adrenaline. It's the beginning of the season. People are playing their first games. All the rookies are running on adrenaline. What's this team going to look like when things plateau a little bit? When the other teams are really gelling and rolling into form? What are they going to look like then? So I think that Enertap is when we're really going to see the true team and see where some of these young players really are. Right now, they're just kind of like on Red Bull, just, if you had a meme to describe the Habs, it's that look that Slavkovsky gave after his goal. Like, they're all like, super, crazy revved up, right? So what's it going to look like in 15 games when, okay, now you've had a couple, road trips, and you had to go to Minnesota in the middle of winter, and there's slush outside, and you had to get on the plane, and the grind of traveling and all. When you get into the meat and potatoes of the season, are you still seeing improvements and good performances then? That's what I would look at.
My only thing the only thing we said is about they already better because they compete already. They don't give up. You can see the second thing. You can see the concept. When I found it, when they said concept, it's the same word. It's all about the system anyway. Right? It's all about transition, and the transition is really an improvement they don't have that season because the defenseman cannot skate with the puck. It was only Petrie can skate with the puck, and Kulak barely. It's funny, guys, but so far we do this for over 3 weeks here, 6 weeks. This at brunch, I do daily news every day. I do live stream every day. No one at any moment mentioned the name Romanov here in that chat. Nobody tell me, we're missing Romanov. Nobody mentioned, talk about Romanov. Just give you an idea the impact of the young guns, Coley, Harris, and Jack I. Just give you an idea. So, but my point to you, they improve better because they play better under Martin St. Louis because he knows now his system a little bit more for the players. And the ad you bring could be that Sean Monahan and other players around that team. I think they make them better. Of course, we take more time to see what they look like. But one thing I know, they will never give up and they're going to compete all the time. So we have an improvement on those departments so far for me on my point. But you're absolutely right. The time will tell us for sure about this. Question for King here for Nick. What do you think, guys, think a Montreal record surprise, not surprise, or expect so far?
I am a bit surprised again because like the Toronto game, I look at this and I could see that they could have easily been 1-5 by just looking at the schedule before the season. Although they could have also, like at this point with the way they've been playing, they could easily be like 4-2 as well. They could have taken that game against Detroit, I think, if they just would have scored. Like,
yeah.
They played well. Allen played well, and then they just could not beat.
I think that Detroit game was probably their worst game. Like that first period was, yikes. Yeah, that was probably the worst period of the whole season, I think. But is the record surprising? I don't really. To be honest, I'm not really paying attention to the record that much yet. It doesn't really mean that much to me. Like I said, there's some of the results over the last week might be a bit misleading with some of the poor goaltending that they were facing in Arizona, and again, Toronto kind of taking them lightly in that first game. So, listen, like a lot of positive things to pull out of the beginning of the season. Overall, I would characterize it as a positive start to the season, but it's not really giving us a clear picture of what this team will be. And coach, it's our responsibility here at HABS Brunch there's a lot of excitement, but let's remember kind of what this team is, and let's try to manage people's expectations of where this train is going. It's still going off a cliff in terms of being competitive for the playoffs, but it's going to be a lot more exciting to watch than last year. Hopefully they'll continue to work hard. So yeah, not putting a lot of stock in the record as of now.
It's a great point about the outcome. I think it's more about, for me, it would be the goal against. I think the goal against surprised me since the beginning because we have a young defenseman starting with the rookies most. I thought we're going to get destroyed most of the night, like 5 goals per game, I'll be honest with you. But I expect that. And then, until yesterday, overall, they play very well. So for me, it's maybe the surprise. I think I agree with you, Marco. It's not about with the winning 2-4, 2-3-1 or 3-3. It doesn't matter. I don't know, but you're absolutely right. I agree with you. Nick, go ahead.
I want to say one thing about that. I feel that the defense, it depends a lot on Gouli. Gouli had his worst game of the season last night. There's no denying that. And that's when the Habs defense kind of struggled more. So I'm thinking Gouli's going to be a huge part of this team going forward. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference when Matheson and Edmondson come in. I still think Gouli's going to get these big minutes, and that's what's going to... he's just going to continue. 20 minutes a night. He's still going to get 20 minutes a night.
Yeah, 20 minutes
maybe not top pairing. Maybe not 24 anymore, but 20 minutes a night, he's not gonna drop to the third pairing. I'm telling you, he's gonna be a second pairing at worst, even when those two come back.
Do you believe Jacky should be getting more coverage than Cooley?
Well, I think we talked about that already. I think he's arguably getting even more coverage than McDavid right now. So he's sexy, right? I've talked about this before, right? This is a business, guy. So don't cage yourselves. Jacky, I'm sure we'll talk about this, what happens when Matheson and Edmondson come back later, but you can't deny the impact that he's having from a marketing perspective. I believe there's 2,000 tweets about him last night or something like that. He's blowing up. So I think he's in terms of hockey play, if you should get more coverage in terms of his play more than Gouli, not yet. I think Gouli overall is still, the best, the more well-rounded player, but in terms of kind of impact to the game and impact to the fan base and things like that, from a marketing perspective, from a buzz perspective, could you argue that Jackeye is more popular than Slavkovsky or Suzuki, maybe even? I think Caulfield is probably the most popular player just because of the kind of player he is. But Jackeye, he's climbing up those charts pretty quick.
Yeah, that's it. Like, I don't know, like right now, because he's so marketable right now. It's what's great. But like at the end of the day, I think Gooley's gonna obviously be the better player, and well, he is the better player. And let's not kid, Jackeye is gonna be probably a third pairing defenseman for the next 5-10 years. Maybe if he could stay that long in Montreal, it'd be great to have him. But yeah, like he's definitely deserving right now because of all the marketability. We'll see how many players want to fight him anymore at this point. Because the more fights,
for sure.
Yeah, he'll still get tested.
Yeah. I don't know if I see his I don't think his ceiling is third pairing. Well, but I have some ideas around that, Coach. We'll get there. We'll talk about Jackeye again later.
Do you believe Montreal is finishing in a similar position at the Winnipeg Jets this year? I feel the way they're playing is slightly better than expected. They won't finish bottom 5.
Well, that's hard to say. Like, it's still early in the season. Like, they could still figure out to get back down to the bottom 5. Like, right now they're looking like a maybe low bottom 10, so like 10th worst, maybe 11th worst in the league right now. It's kind of close, but at the end of the day, I think there will be some teams that are going to pass the Habs because it's a young team and there's a lot of adrenaline, like Marco says, and that's making a huge difference right now. We'll see. That's a hard question to answer right now. I don't think they're going to finish bottom 3, but maybe bottom 5 is still possible.
King of Gamers, like if you've heard, like I think the Winnipeg Jets are the dark horse team of the NHL this year. I think they're going to fight for at least a spot in the wild card when everybody's counting them out. So no, I don't think they're going to be close at all in the standings. I think Winnipeg, I'm a little nervous now that they lost Ehlers. Hopefully he's not out too long, but I still have my money on the Jets hopefully sneaking in. So I think Habs in the bottom 8, I would say conservatively, yeah.
Montreal is 3-3. What are they in the division right now?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, what are they? 6?
So they are the bottom, have 8 at that division, and they are 8-3-3. So just give you an idea. They don't go nowhere about the fact. I'm telling you right now, since the beginning of the year, I said 29, it would be the best for them. 28, it would be amazing. And 27, it would be exceptional. And I don't never move about those selection about this. It will not happen. The only thing will be worse for them is Arizona and San Jose. That's the 2 teams I believe will be worse at them. And then go to fight for 30 and 29 with Chicago.
I was looking at also maybe Vancouver now. I don't know what's going on with them. They're just underachieving. And Minnesota too is underachieving, but we know that they're going to get back. They're a team that's going to get back. They have all the skill in the world. So like they might be, what are they, 0-4 or no? They beat
0-4-2.
Oh yeah, because it was Vancouver that won that game in overtime.
0-4-2.
No.
Yeah, Vancouver hasn't won a game yet. They've lost in overtime twice.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this.
So it's 0-4-2 for the Canucks, Vancouver. And like 1-4 for Minnesota. Yeah, that's
Minnesota.
Right.
You're absolutely right about this one over there. We are almost at the end. We passed that time, but just like that, everybody, we want to thanks everybody be a part of the show tonight. Then we want to be sure this tonight. I'm always the night, but now it's the morning here. It's confusing sometimes. The preview of the weeks, Marco, pre-weeks number 3, Montreal are going to be on the one more game Tuesday at home, and then going to be on the road for 4 games. But this week they play Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Minnesota, Buffalo, Sabre, and the Blues. Minnesota 1-4, Buffalo is 4-1, and the Blues are 3-0. and on the road. So two of the last 3 games. So what are your expectation for the Montreal this week?
I think it's going to be a tough week, coach. Like looking at that those matchups, Minnesota is going to be hungry. Oh my God, they are on the hot seat. So, Fleury. If they play Fleury, we know Fleury's history, but usually he plays terrible in Montreal. So maybe he'll play well when they're in Minnesota. I don't think we have a great record in Minnesota historically, so I'll give that one to Minnesota. Buffalo's we've always had a hard time with Buffalo. They're coming off. Hey, coach, do you know if that will be their first game back from the road trip? Back
No.
home, Buffalo? They're playing one more game, so
Yeah, I think
usually
it
that's
is
an
Tuesday.
important. Yeah, so that's an important one. Like usually the first game back from a road trip, a team, they're doing their dry cleaning and doing whatever. Like they're so much stuff after a long road trip. But if this is not their first game back, then that diminishes their chances even more. So guys, looking at this lineup, I'm going to say 0-3, unfortunately, this week.
Yeah.
Maybe they squeak a point here, but I don't know.
Yeah, like for me, I'm looking at it right now. Minnesota, like I said, I think they're going to bounce back now. It's kind of time for them to wake up. And I could see them bouncing back. It will probably be a close game because Montreal's going to not quit. But it's not. At the end of the day, I think Minnesota takes it. Thursday, yeah, Buffalo. Whatever reason, I don't understand sometimes. Buffalo always has Montreal's number. But this team is different. So we'll see. If anything, I think they could take the game against Buffalo. But we'll see.
If they start Anderson is so good against Montreal. He just always on the top of his game when he plays Montreal. Yeah.
Yeah. But for the game against St. Louis, no way. No. They're not winning. I don't see it. I do not see it at all. That's it.
1 point somehow. I don't know how, but he will get 1 point.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they squeeze one in, yeah.
I don't know how they can
I'll
do
say
that,
it
but it'll
against
be
Buffalo.
1 point about this one over there. So for sure. Full report on Kidney for the next show about this, Rick.
Cool.
And
Nice.
if you see right now, Riley Kidney and Joshua, you see all those players right now in front of you, it'll be a really difficult game. I don't know how they can play with Montreal.
I think to me, Roy's, he'll play at World Junior. Like he reminds me like of a Chaludon kind of guy. Maybe he'll play in the NHL. He'll be a marginal.
The only thing for him
NHL
would be
player.
his skating. He need to improve his
skating is
skating.
not
It's
good.
really, I think his skating is better, but the skating is really what you need to improve.
I do think though that I do think he could be a third liner. I just don't see him. I used to think he would be above that, but with everyone ahead of him, I just look at guys like Machard, Beck. Those guys are definitely ahead of him, and
good trade bait for a right-handed defenseman. Well, it's like sell him while he's high, coach.
So
right after the World Juniors, and he does really well. If you have an opportunity to flip Roy as a top prospect, that's definitely a guy that I would have on my list.
I would trade Riley Kidney before Joshua Roy.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
No, what is he has more potential than Kidney. I don't know if Kidney will ever play an NHL game. I don't know. And it's just because there's no room. He could probably play somewhere else though, but not in Montreal.
Yeah, absolutely right about this. And he said the right thing. We have now prospect to trade bait. That's the beauty of what Montreal has right now. If they want to slip a bad salary, whatever it is. So that's possible about this one over there. So this concludes, guys, all the information we have to give you the BRUNCH. Before we leave, any comments, Marko and Nick, what are you looking for this week for the Montreal Canadiens overall? Whatever is what maybe talking, maybe a subject where possibly the decision or possibly the injury, Sakoski, or what you're looking for this week?
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so what I'm looking for is just to show like some fight. It's going to definitely be another tough week. I just want to see some fight. I would love to see like Suzuki maybe tighten up a bit on the defense side. Like you mentioned, I feel like he's losing his defensive side. It's great seeing the points, but maybe just tighten up defensively. I see that he's messing up a lot of coverage in the defensive zone. I also would like to see Cole Caulfield take a little bit of a step defensively. He is not. He's been a great scorer. Oh, also they need to get points and goals on
On
the
the
road.
road. Yeah.
Caulfield doesn't score on the road. He only scores at home. And everyone thinks like he's been so great.
Suzuki, same thing. Like most of his production is at home for sure.
But a lot of their production come together, so it's kind of imperative on that. So
yeah, I think that's a great point, Nick. Like let's see how they do on, like, they had a great run here at home, so let's see how they perform on the road. What characteristics can they keep that excitement? There's a lot of energy that they're getting from the crowd at certain points of the game. So look to players like Jacky to come in, and maybe he's a guy that helps them kind of get that energy in those games, because you have to find ways to generate energy yourselves, right, when you're in a hostile environment. So I'll be looking for that. Like what are some of the, again, if this season is all about progression, then we don't want to see regression, right? So to me, regression would be not having competitive games on the road. That would be a bit of a regression. So let's try to have some competitive games. So the other thing I'll be looking for sure is, like, with the return of those injuries, we debated this at length here, like who's going to be on the chopping block as a result of this. And maybe it's all moot. Maybe it's not going to happen at all. Maybe there's an injury. And, we know in Montreal, there's a lot of injuries that happen all the time. And who knows, like maybe they don't rush Armia back or something like that as well too, right? Like there's creative ways to kind of slowly kind of insert someone back as well. So should be a fun week, like Coach. It's going to be a very fun season. Like from the beginning of the year here, we've been excited. We knew there was going to be a lot of cool stories, and this second week of the season did not disappoint. Lots of great memories, lots of great stories. So I'm sure all Habs fans are looking for more fun things this week.
Yep, definitely. Power play for me. That will be the one I'm looking for this week. How they can get a little bit better on the power play. Someone mentioned about Kaden Cooley for his goal. I think you're absolutely right about this. It'd be great to have him to get that one over there for sure. And honestly, 3 games for Montreal. We're going to do all the play-by-play this week. That's what we got at the Hockey Nation Show. We want to thank Mr. Nick Lariviere to join us tonight. Mr. Nick, or this morning, I apologize. At BRUNCH, but I do more game than night, so I'm always said the night, but we appreciate that. Second time, hopefully you can come back very soon, of course, and talking about hockey for sure. Marko, is always a pleasure having you aboard of the as BRUNCH, as a co-host. Great to have you aboard for sure. And for all the people in the chat, please sharing this video. Of course, click on the subscribe if you are not. If you already, please click on the likes. That'd be awesome. And of course, please click on the bell to get all the notifications we bring to you when we are live streaming the Montreal Canadiens, or we create other videos during the week. And Marko, want to finish this show?
Yes, sir. So thanks, everybody. Have a great Sunday. I'm starving. Usually I have my little brunch before the show, but I decided to stay hungry for the show. So my stomach is grumbling. I'm going to go devour some eggs or something. So have a great week, everybody. Thanks for joining us on HABS Brunch. Don't forget to leave a comment on the video below. Nick, great job. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.
Have an amazing, great week, everybody. I will can wait to you next Sunday. Have a good one.